I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Thank you, Mr. Whiteman, for your remarks. Do members of the committee have questions for the presenter?
I do.
Honourable Minister Marcelino.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteman, for your presence here tonight, for your comments. I was wondering what, in your opinion, was the impacts on our provincial economy writ large the ban had on our provincial economy.
Just 1 second. Mr. Whiteman.
Excuse me. It is significant. And I can only speak in an anecdotal basis, but because of my role and what I do in this province, been doing for many, many decades, major owners of projects corporately come and visit with me on a regular basis, weekly. And when this act came into play, and you have to understand, these are folks that are going across Canada and they're touching base. It's like a touchstone they do with the CLRs in each province. And we're private entities. We're not a government thing. We're not affiliated with each other in province. We're individual organizations. But they come to us because they know we understand what's going on in the market space, labor supply issues, legislative concerns. I would spend half an hour of the first hour of the meeting, we usually have an hour, trying to explain to them that they can do a project labor agreement in this province because they came in with the idea that they were not allowed to do one, to build a corporate project. This kind of legislation has a damaging impact when it's not well thought through, okay? You don't see that. I see that. If I had all that time added up that I've spent dealing with this, forgive me, nonsense, I'd probably have another 2 years to my life at the end of the day. I know I'm going to be laying on my deathbed wondering, gee, I wish I had that time back. I'm serious. Am I annoyed? You're damn right I'm annoyed. And that has an impact because they come in here already wanting to...
Sorry, Mr. Whiteman, just to interrupt, just to remind you of just the language, actually. Please continue.
Yeah, I'm a little annoyed. This is an opportunity for me to vent a little bit to the folks who can make a correction, a smart correction. Get it done. Don't delay. Okay? Those same major players are the same folks that you need to build your next infrastructure project, the general contractor element. I'm telling you, they are not going to come to this province, and sometimes you need them from out of province. Companies like PCL as well, locally here. Massive concerns about taking on a major government infrastructure project where they know, drill down on labor supply issues, drill down on safety issues. That's what they're all about, risk mitigation. If they can't do a PLA, they're going to walk away. They're going to walk away. They're just not even going to approach you. That's bad for business, for the government's business. What will result? Your costs will go up. Your project issues will expand. All you have to do is look at the North End project. And I know that's not a provincial sanctioned project, it's a city project. And I've been dealing with that project since the South End project, where, with all due respect, the city made some very bad decisions about who they were employing. They should have done a PLA. I spoke to them about it for many, many, many months. They chose at the last minute to not do that, and their project, was a bit of a mess. And I told them, and it's on the record, if they make the same approach for North End, which is 10 times the South End project, they'll bankrupt the city. Guess what? It's a problem. They're not doing a PLA. I cannot believe that the brain trust at the city has chosen to not do a PLA for a major, the biggest infrastructure project the city of Winnipeg has ever had in its history. It's screaming for a project, a benefit community agreement, whatever you call it, an ABC agreement. It's an agreement to help the owner manage the project. It's just smart business. The details are what the owner wants. Paying the bill. To not allow them to do it is, I'm not allowed to swear. It's stupid. Stupid.
We only have a little bit of time left, but do other members have questions for the presenter?
Is there leave to ask another question?
Sorry, is there leave to ask another question?
Agreed.
Agreed. Ms. Byram.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteman. I just want to make a comment and say thank you for coming here and sharing your comments and your perspective.
Mr. Whiteman.
Running the room, so pardon me. I'm sorry. I'm not following your protocols.
Thank you. Do we have leave to ask a further question? Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Just while you're up here, Mr. Whiteman, earlier Mr. Rebeck mentioned the Labor Management Review Committee's consensus decision on the Employment Standards Amendment regarding the extended sick leave. Do you have any comments about that? You were the chair of the LMRC or co-chair at the time.
Mr. Whiteman.
I appreciate the question. Thank you very much. Mr. Rebeck did mention me by name in his presentation, so to have the opportunity to respond, I think, is fair game. I have no issues whatsoever, and I 100% support the detail of his presentation. I'm on board with it 100%. It's in the record. I don't need to repeat it. But the LMRC, and I'm the longest serving member on LMRC for close to 30 years. I've been on that. I'm on the Manitoba Labour Board too, been on that for a long time. I'm one of the government's 8 appointed conciliation mediation officers. Like, I'm immersed in this stuff. And everything that Mr. Rebeck said about what occurred is 100% accurate and was extremely annoying for a group of folks who get together. We're not paid to do it. We work many long hours trying to help government, whoever that may be, and as I've been there for close to 30 years, all those governments. We're there as sort of the wise owls to help government with issues that they are bringing forward that affect the employer-employee relationship. Sometimes the ideas are good. They need to be sort of tweaked to work with labor, to work with the management of the big companies in this province so that we could come back to government in a very focused way and say, change this, change that, you're good to go. Or here's an idea that you're not thinking about that you should be thinking about so you get ahead of something. It's a fantastic committee, and it's very unique to Manitoba. So what Mr. Rebeck said is that's our esprit de corps. We figure it out. So I'm 100% on board with what he said about the issues he was talking about. Hopefully I answered the question without making a big speech. But
Thank you very much for your presentation and for taking the time tonight. I'd like to call Mrs. Lois Rustin. Okay, she'll be dropped to the bottom of the list. I'd like to call Mr. Ron Castell. Ron Castell, when you're ready, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to come and speak to you today about this project-led agreements, Bill 7. I don't know what else I can say in regards to what has been said already about the benefits of the PLA, but I'm here today from the ground, from working in the front lines at Kiosk. I was a labor relations individual for Kiosk and for our unions. And my specialty there was the Indigenous liaison for the partners, the 4 partners up at Kiosk. But also I had experienced all the safety meetings that we had with our contractors, all the labor disputes that we had with our contractors and our employees, our union members, and also with our community partners. So my perspective on the PLA is that I lived it, I seen it, and I delivered it, and it was prosperous. It was prosperous right across the north. Me, I'm a northerner. Me, I come from Leaf Rapids. I'm a miner by trade. My father was a miner for 35 years, Inco and Hudson Bay. They were also PLAs as well. My father got a job. He became PLA. Dan Highway recruited him. So it was like a progression where I got the opportunity to represent the North and the communities that we served through this PLA, the 4 communities, but also our union members, our 2,500 union members that worked on that Kias Dam. So when you talk about the benefits, when you talk about the outcomes, when you talk about a complete project and the cost and the legacy that's left, we're talking about a PLA that affected those communities, that allowed those communities to get hired, that allowed those communities to have the purchasing power through their members to get employed, their members to get experience and become the next workforce for another major project. They allowed them to enhance their skills in the North, to be a viable workforce. But on the flip side of that, when you talk about a PLA, what happens when you don't have it? You have a safety issue. I was sitting in many safety incidents at Kiosk and we resolved them. What we're going to do different next time so this doesn't happen again. How we're going to keep our members safe so they go home to their kids, their wives, their families at the end of the day. So there was a lot of safety precautions taken on that mega project in the North. I had the opportunity to help the East Side Road prior to coming to Kiosk. I worked with Barons River. I helped a contractor train local people because the East Side was also a PLA. And they used that method to provide training for local workers in Barons River. So I had the opportunity to help a contractor train local workers to become truck drivers, to become rock truck drivers, to become drillers, to become blasters, and build that road to connect with society from an isolated community to an all-season road. And they learned skills, and there was safety in there as well, a big safety component. So when you talk about PLAs and you talk about what's the end of the dotted line, we're talking purchasing powers for the company, purchasing power for the partnerships and the communities. We're also talking about the legacy of that project. And me being firsthand, being able to have that opportunity to work in that project for 5 years, it was like an awesome opportunity. And working for Allied Hydro and the union members that they represent was an honor and a privilege to do that work. And in closing, I just say PLAs are an awesome opportunity for the government to share the wealth, not to business only concept. Bottom line, this is how much we're willing to sacrifice safety in order to get a project that PLAs are. We're going to invest. We're going to invest in our workers. We're going to invest in safety so they can come back and be prosperous for the next job. So in closing, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, by all means.
Thank you very much. Do members of the committee have questions for the presenter? Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Thank you very much, Mr. Castell, for coming today in front of the committee and presenting. We really appreciate your presence here. My question for you is, in future PLAs, what do you think First Nations communities should be or would be asking for?
Mr. Castell.
Oh, Excellent question. I'm glad you asked that question. Because prior to me coming to Kiosk with my background's HR, my background's labor relations, my background is community development, my background is training the local workforce. When I got to Kiosk, there was a lot of questions the communities had asked. What is a union? What is a labor agreement? What is a collective bargaining agreement? A lot of communities weren't aware. When I got there, I was doing a lot of liaisoning with those communities, those 4 communities, explaining the roles, explaining my role as their union rep, explaining my role, how I'm there to help them, explaining my role so they understand how they can utilize the PLAs to benefit their communities through training, through apprenticeship, through collaboration with the contractors. So when you have an Indigenous representation on a mega project like that, it smooths out a lot of roads, especially in truth and reconciliation that's coming out nowadays. It's vital that you have someone that has that expertise, that ability to talk to all the people, like the last presenter is to, you're the owners. It's an opportunity for you to say, yes, let's be owners. Let's continue that prosperity.
Honorable Minister Marcelino.
I think I'd like to correct you, Mr. Castell. We're not the owners. We are the owners together as this province. It's all of Manitoba that will own that PLA and the benefits from that agreement.
Mr. Castell, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. As Manitobans, we're all responsible. We're all here to be a prosperous province. But I'd also like to say that, from a First Nation perspective, we're at the table now, right? We're here. We're here to help. We're here to enhance the PLAs.
Are there further questions for the presenter? Do we have leave for the Honorable Minister Schmidt to ask a question? Honorable Minister Schmidt.
Thank you to the committee for granting me leave, and thank you, Mr. Castell, for being here. You mentioned the concept of truth and reconciliation, and we know that certainly historically in Manitoba, mega projects like hydro dams have not always benefited all Manitobans or all communities equally. So I'd like to hear your perspective on how you think that project labor agreements can contribute to economic reconciliation here in Manitoba, something that our government is very focused on.
Mr. Castell.
Yes, thank you for the question. In history, our unions haven't been at the forefront and upfront with the First Nations communities of this province. But recently, we have been more aware, we have been more inclusive, we have been more communicating. Our doors have been reaching out to engage a lot more with our Indigenous communities, because when you really think about it, when a major project like Kiosk, that was in someone's backyard. Whose backyard was it, right? So with that Kiosk project, they had that opportunity to hire local, right, through a PLA, local meaning north. If you can't find the workers there, we go to the province of Manitoba. If you can't find the workers there, we go outside of that. So that really benefited those 4 communities that were part of Kiosk at that time. So moving forward, being in my position as the Director of Indigenous Relations for Manitoba Building Trades, I'm able to enhance the building trades a little bit more, working alongside my colleagues, working alongside their colleagues, working alongside their projects, able to go out and engage with the communities and train their local workers. We're able to do that now. Go out to the community and train the community about labor, construction craft worker, bricklayers, insulators. We're able to provide those things now. And utilizing our partnerships with Indigenous Service Canada, ISET holders, all those things coming more and more and more. So it's a great opportunity to utilize these partnerships that are out there, you know?
Thank you very much for taking the time today and for providing your insight. I just want to let folks know that we've received a late written submission to Bill 7 from Joshua Lapointe. The submission has been uploaded to the MLA portal. Is there leave to have this submission included in Hansard? Agreed. Agreed, and so ordered. I'd like to call on Mr. Damien Bernard. Mr. Bernard, when you're ready, please proceed with your presentation.
Hi. Hello, my name is Damien Bernhard, and I'm the Assistant Business Manager of IBW 2085. Tonight I'm presenting to you in my capacity as a construction electrician, and I want to thank the committee for taking the time to hear the speakers this evening, and I want to thank the government and Minister of Labour for bringing forward Bill 7, which will repeal the ban on PLAs. The ban on PLAs is the only one of its kind in North America, and its damaging impacts Manitoba skilled trade workers and the construction industry as a whole. The work I do as an IBW 2085 has been done for 64 years and has built the critical infrastructure for Manitoba's needs. I've personally worked on many projects that were built under PLAs. I've worked at Wisquatum, I've worked at Kiosk, and I worked at Kiwatanuk. During that time working up there, I got to mentor a lot of First Nations members that were local up there. I've got a good friend, Ian Beardy, who's now a journeyman. He brings his skills back to his hometown. He works on the water treatment plant there. He keeps all the infrastructure working in Bird and in Fox Lake. It's super critical that we keep PLAs like this around. Part of my history, I worked 8 years non-union before joining the union, so I have a third of my experience in the trade is non-union. When I was working at Kiwatanuk, I worked directly beside non-union companies that worked under the PLA. Those companies were not forced to be union. Those members, those people that came in and worked on that project, they got to enjoy the benefits of being union by getting the high wages, they got the pension, they got the benefits while they were on site. When they left, they went with their company back to the jobs that they had. Some of them actually joined the unions after because of their preference to get these wages and benefits. So the fact that it's forced unionization is not true. The repeal and the ban on PLA signals to me that the province is keen to invest on workforce development strategy that will benefit Manitobans. BC has some incredible statistics following their implementation of PLA framework that I'd like to share with you now. 91% of workers on infrastructure projects are BC residents. Indigenous and female participation in BC's construction industry is less than 5% for both groups overall, but under PLAs, there's 15% Indigenous participation and 9% female participation. The 9% female participation saw 10% of all hours worked and the 15 Indigenous participation saw 14% of all hours worked. When I hear stats like that, I can't help but be hopeful that here in Manitoba, we are able to proudly tell the similar story. Bill 7 is an important first step in ensuring the government can reinstate framework that's going to give Manitoba the social and economic outcomes we need as a province. I am hopeful that they will immediately move to legislate framework for PLAs, ensuring that workers like myself have fair wages and economic opportunities while building critical infrastructure and our communities need.
Thank you, Mr. Bernhard, for your presentation. Do members of the committee have questions for the presenter? Honourable Minister Marcelino.
Thank you, Mr. Bernhard, for your participation today, and thanks for all your really hard work over the years on all those big projects for our province. My question is that you mentioned that you were non-unionized for a third of your career and then unionized for the rest so far. What do you think was the biggest difference between that time and this time that you're unionized now? What are some contrasts or changes that you feel you can highlight?
Mr. Bernhard?
When I first started in the trade, I did commercial residential maintenance. I actually did maintenance for Manitoba Housing and making sure anytime there was issues, would clean that up. But I wasn't learning anything new in my trade. The safety wasn't there that I needed. I had people threaten me, try to jump me for my tools while working in Manitoba Housing. I got tired of that race, and I went to the union hall and wanted to pursue different avenues in my career. As soon as I became a unionized member, I got to go up to Thompson and work at Valet Inkle. I got to travel all across Canada. I've been in the mines all over Esterhazy, Potash. I've been in BC. I've been in Northern Baffin Island. I've enjoyed many things from the union. So now it's my turn to give back, and that's why I became a union representative.
Thank you. Are there other members of the committee that would like to ask a question? Ms. Byram?
Just to thank you, Mr. Bernhard, for making your presentation here tonight and again sharing your experience in union and non-union. So thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much for taking the time tonight. I would now like to call Mr. Joshua Fisher, who is online. If Mr. Joshua Fisher could turn on your microphone and your video, you can begin your presentation when you're ready.
Hi, thank you for taking the time to listen to my submission. My name is Josh Fisher. I'm here to speak in favor of PLAs. Just a little bit of background. So when I was in my mid-20s, I was struggling to find good employment, good paying employment. So I was looking for something that would be stable. So I applied to the laborers union, and within 6 months, I'd received a call to work at the Kiosk Hydro Dam under a PLA. With priority being given to Manitoba residents, it enabled me to be hired on this project. Working at Kiosk with the union under a PLA allowed me to save for a house, provided me with great benefits, wages, and a pension that supported my family. At the time, it was the highest wages that I'd ever earned working construction, so that was huge for my family. Working under a PLA is not only good for Manitoba workers, it's good for Manitoba. It keeps a lot of the wages in Manitoba by providing priority hiring to Manitobans. Working at Kiosk, I personally saw the socio-economic benefits and skills Indigenous and Northern residents gained as a result of priority hiring at the Kiosk project under the PLA. Again, I really support PLAs and keeping the work in Manitoba for Manitobans.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Do we have questions for the presenter? Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Mr. Fisher, I just wanted to thank you for your time and effort in presenting to committee tonight. Thank you.
Would you like to respond, Mr. Fisher?
No, thanks for listening.
Ms. Byram?
I too, Mr. Fisher, would like to thank you for participating tonight. I know it's not early, it's later into the evening, and taking the time at this time to participate is appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Fisher, would you like to respond?
No, thank you very much for your guys' time.
Thank you very much for taking the time tonight to provide your perspective. We're now going to be moving to back to Bill 9. So I'd like to call Ms. Susan Russell Cezanne. Whenever you're ready, you can begin your presentation.
Thanks. In the handouts, you will find a policy note, Manitoba's 2024 cancer stats, and CCS's April 2024 opinion poll to illuminate Manitoba's support of Bill 9. And I'm comfortable with being addressed as Miss Russell going forward. Channy's a little bit hard to get off the tongue there. All right, so good evening, members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Susan Russell Channy, and I serve as the Senior Advocacy Coordinator in Manitoba with the Canadian Cancer Society. I'm honored to be here this evening to express our strong support for Bill 9, the Employment Standards Amendment Act, extending the length of leave for serious injury and illness from 17 weeks to 27 weeks. It's a critical change and one that could make all the difference in the lives of Manitobans with cancer and their families. No one ever plans to hear the words, "You have cancer." But for 7,600 Manitobans that will be diagnosed with cancer in 2024, those words are a reality. For nearly 40% of those diagnosed, cancer will strike at a time when they are in the prime of their careers or are preparing for retirement. They may be working hard to buy their first home, paying off debt, or simply providing for their families. At these times, people are often juggling multiple responsibilities with many others depending on them, and that's why the peace of mind that unpaid job-protected leave offers is a necessary component to a healing journey. We know these are already difficult times. We are living in an affordability crisis where the rising cost of living dominates our conversations at the grocery store, at the pharmacy, and here in the legislature. Meanwhile, the costs associated with cancer are only rising. When someone faces cancer, their struggle is not just medical, but financial. People living with cancer often face a reduction in income or a rise in expenses, as well as an increased risk of unemployment due to a cancer diagnosis. As elected officials, you hear from Manitobans every day who are struggling amid a cancer diagnosis or other serious illnesses. An expanded job-protected illness leave policy reflects the realities of living with cancer. By ensuring job protection is afforded up front, having a job to return to is one less thing for a cancer patient and their family to worry about. The increased anxiety and stress resulting from financial insecurity experienced by individuals facing cancer can impact a person's psychosocial well-being and can have adverse impacts on their mental health, physical health, and the quality of life for those that care for them. By providing job security for cancer patients as they receive and recover from treatment, it will help reduce financial insecurity and help them heal and return to work as healthy and productive as possible. The amendment from 17 weeks to 27 weeks allows Manitobans the opportunity to not only return to the same job and career opportunities they had before they went on leave, but also a week to establish employment insurance coverage. The expanded unpaid job-protected illness leave to 27 weeks aligns with the federal EI sickness benefit. The expanded job-protected leave allows Manitobans to access the benefits they need to make ends meet. Manitoba's Compassionate Care Leave provides employees the opportunity to take 28 weeks of unpaid job-protected leave to care for or support a critically ill family member. Seriously ill Manitobans or injured Manitobans deserve the same opportunity to maintain their employment status and career opportunities just as those caring for them do. Ill or injured Manitobans and their families should not have to experience financial hardship or uncertainty during their cancer journey. There is hope. Thanks to advancements in treatment, more and more people are surviving cancer and returning to work. These individuals want and deserve the chance to rebuild their lives. They need to know that their job will still be there when they are ready to come back, and Manitoba has a chance to provide that opportunity. Manitoba can join the other jurisdictions that are setting the standard for job-protected leave and the standard of hope that the rest of Canada will follow. Currently, Quebec and Nova Scotia have aligned with the federal benefit. Quebec is offering 26 weeks of job protected leave, and they started offering that in 2003. Recently, Nova Scotia's progressive conservative government passed a similar legislation. Nova Scotia's 27 weeks of unpaid job protected leave received royal assent in 2 weeks. Manitoba support this legislation. We conducted an opinion poll in April and found that 92% of Manitobans surveyed support the expansion of unpaid job protected illness leave to 27 weeks. That's why the Canadian Cancer Society has worked to elevate the needs of people living with cancer to push for these vital changes. Together, we have advanced the conversation around unpaid job protected leave and advocacy on behalf of Manitobans and patients and their families. Expanding unpaid job-protected serious illness leave will reduce barriers to cancer care, help reduce the financial burden experienced by people affected by cancer, and ensure that people with cancer have the time they need to heal and return to work as healthy and productive as possible. This is particularly important during this time of financial restraint. No Manitoban should experience financial hardship during their cancer journey. It takes a society to improve the cancer journey for everyone and involves governments, employees, healthcare, and community to work together. Expanding unpaid job protective illness leave can reduce financial burdens on cancer patients. On behalf of the Canadian Cancer Society, we wholeheartedly support and endorse Bill 9. It's more than just a smart policy, it's the right thing to do. Because while cancer doesn't wait, your job should. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Do members of the committee have questions? Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Thank you, Ms. Russell Chaney. I wanted to thank you for all the meetings that you've provided with me to brief me on this topic and the research that the Canadian Cancer Society has done on behalf of its members to advocate for this important amendment. I wanted to ask your opinion or your response to opposition concerns that folks would try to, use fraud or something like that in order to try to get unpaid job protected leave. What is your response to that kind of concern that the opposition has raised?
Ms. Russell.
Thank you for the question. We're so happy to be here today to speak in support of Bill 9. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, will employees be asking for more time away due to expansion and unpaid job protected leave? CCS conducted an analysis of the current job protected leave legislation to examine the influence of illness and disability absences among eligible workers potentially affected by the policy. That includes non-unionized workers who met the tenure requirements and other non-eligible workers. We did not find any evidence that Manitoba's current policy increased the overall length of illness and disability absences, and Quebec's policy was associated with decreases in lengths of leave. Our research analysis clarifies that people are not found to take advantage of unpaid job-protected leave policy.
Are there further questions for the presenter? Ms. Byram?
Thank you, Ms. Russell, for your presentation today. And on this very important matter, I'm sure we have all known someone, whether it be family or friends, that have gone through severe illness, critical illness, in particular, perhaps cancer even. And I want to say thank you for taking the time, and also thank you for responding to the minister's question, and as well as giving us your handout here with some further information to follow that up. Thank you.
Ms. Russell, would you like to respond?
You're welcome. Thanks for having us today.
Are there further questions for the presenter? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Russell, for taking the time tonight. I'd like to call Mr. Patrick Tohill, who's online. Mr. Tohill, when you're ready, you can begin your presentation.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Tohill. I'm Director of Advocacy and Government Affairs for Crohn's and Colitis Canada. I'd like to begin by thanking the chair, the honorable minister, and other members here tonight for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the more than 10,000 Manitobans who live with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis and their families. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm calling from Toronto, which is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Crohn's and Colitis Canada acknowledges the enduring and vibrant presence, culture, history, and inherent rights of First Nations people, Métis, and Inuit across Canada on whose traditional territories we live and work. For 50 years, Crohn's and Colitis Canada has been transforming the lives of those living with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis through research, patient programs, advocacy, and awareness. We are the world's second largest charitable funder of research to cure these conditions, with more than $150 million invested since 1974. Our patient programs include peer support, scholarships, camps for children, and much more. Tonight, we're pleased to join our colleagues from the Canadian Cancer Society and others in supporting the proposed amendments to Bill 9 to extend long-term job-protected leave for those impacted by serious illness or injury from 17 weeks to 27 weeks. This measure is critical to ensuring that all Manitobans experiencing serious illness or injury are able to take the medical leave they need and when the time comes, return to work without risking their employment. According to the most recent Canadian survey on disability in 2022, some 8 million people in Canada, 27% reported living with a disability. Of these, only 35% report experiencing continuous limitations. Another 65% experience disabilities that are dynamic in nature, meaning they're progressive, recurrent, or fluctuating. This latter category of disability dynamics includes episodic disabilities where periods of wellness are punctuated by intermittent and often unpredictable activity limitations. Chronic illnesses such as Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, as well as other chronic illnesses including arthritis, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, would all fall under this category, along with some types of cancer and HIV, mental health disorders such as depression and anxiety, musculoskeletal conditions such as back or neck pain, and chronic fatigue syndrome. Such periods of episodic disability are unpredictable. They may be invisible to others and may also impact the employee's mental health. Many with Crohn's and colitis may even hesitate to disclose their illness to their employer unless absolutely necessary. This may be out of concern that they will not be taken seriously or due to stigma around a condition that is accompanied by diarrhea and bowel urgency that may result in a frequent need to visit a washroom as many as 20 or more times a day in some cases. Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis are the two main forms of inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD. Both are characterized by inflammation in the gastrointestinal tract that disrupts normal digestive function. This can mean unrelenting pain and fatigue, uncontrolled diarrhea, fever, rectal bleeding, and declining mental health. Extraintestinal manifestations associated with IBD include skin conditions, eye conditions, muscular and joint pain, as well as diseases of the liver, pancreas, or gallbladder. While people living with these inflammatory bowel diseases may look fine on the outside, they may be feeling far from fine inside. With the right drug therapy, inflammation can be controlled and people can live relatively well. However, these conditions are individual and not everyone will have the same experience. Even when stable on a drug, active symptoms of IBD or flares may be experienced. In some cases, flares may prove debilitating, resulting in a temporary or even prolonged absence from the workplace. Some will be hospitalized as a result of flares for 2 or more weeks, and upon release, they will require many weeks of recovery. Some may still be receiving nutrition from a feeding tube during the first weeks, and it's not uncommon that they might also require the assistance of a personal support worker. Many will have experienced severe weight and or blood loss or even loss of muscle mass. It may be many weeks more before they're able to return to the workplace. Some may require accommodations upon their return. At some future date, Crohn's and Colitis Canada hopes to have the opportunity to work with the government to better address the needs of Manitobans with episodic disabilities through improved workplace accommodations. The longer one lives with IBD, the more likely that complications may be experienced, including bowel obstruction, intestinal rupture, fistulas in the bowel wall, malnutrition with resulting weight loss, and colorectal cancer. Some of these will require surgical intervention, which comes with an even longer recovery period. We're grateful for the Manitoba government's leadership in aligning the province's unpaid leave benefit for serious injury or illness with the federal employment insurance sickness benefit. These important changes will ensure that workers experiencing serious illness will not only be able to take full advantage of the extended EI benefits, they'll also be able to take the time off they need without fear of losing their employment. In conclusion, extending the length of job-protected illness leave from 17 weeks to 27 weeks not only aligns Manitoba's benefit with the federal EI sickness benefit, it also will make Manitoba a leader in protecting workers who are experiencing a disruption in their employment due to serious illness or injury, and provide an important safety net to these workers and their families. Those experiencing a work disruption as a result of Crohn's or colitis tell me they want nothing more than to find a way to continue to do their job or to find another job that they can do. It's critical that those who are once again able to return to their job may do so when their active symptoms are once again under control. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. Do members of the committee have questions for the presenter? Honourable Minister Marcelino.
Thank you, Mr. Toyle, for your presentation and for joining us tonight at the committee. And I also wanted to thank your CEO and President Lori Radke for her letter to me and continued advocacy of Crohn's and Colitis Canada on this important amendment change that we're hoping to bring forth here in Manitoba. My question is I think that the previous presenters on Bill 9 were able to, let the opposition understand that there was enough consultation done on this bill already through the Labor Management Review Committee process. I just would like to get your opinion on how would you address members opposite's concerns that that folks might try to fraud the system.
Mr. Tohle?
Yeah, unlike my colleague at the Canadian Cancer Society, I don't have any analysis or data to share, but anecdotally, from the people that I speak to who live with Crohn's and colitis, it's much more often the case that they're not given sufficient consideration by their employers. Many are not. Many tell me they're not given accommodations that they need. People don't understand that they need to be close to a washroom. In returning to work, people don't understand the time that they need to take off and their long recovery. Many who are in who don't have the protection of a good contract, whether it's a good white collar job or whether it's a union contract, people in retail and other more precarious industries, are literally worried, that they're going to need longer than the time that they're allotted to recover. So I just asked the committee to consider, absent evidence that people are taking advantage, I think we need to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Are there other members that have questions? Ms. Byram.
Thank you, Mr. Tallhill, for presenting here tonight and joining us at this time of evening. And again, I want to say thank you for sharing the information, and I found it very informative. And thank you so much.
Would you like to respond?
Thank you. Nothing to add.
All right. Thank you very much for taking the time tonight and for providing your perspectives. All right, I'd like to call David Grant for Bill 21. When you're ready, please proceed with your presentation.
Could I speak to 7?
Sorry?
We were doing 7. Could I do my...
You have 10 minutes, but you can...
Okay.
Sorry, you're...
I was lined up for 7.
We have you signed up for Bill 21 at the moment, as well as Bill 7, but can you speak to Bill 21 right now?
Okay. No, I think I have nothing to add to what other people have said on Bill 21. Thank you. And I did want to offer my apologies for not being here when called before, but I was down the hall and lined up to speak there. And I guess it's related to Bill 21. If the in the old days, when we spoke here, there was a list, and the list was the speaking and the how can we say, the being out of town issue that crept in a few years ago. But anyway, it would be nice to see that again, because if I'd known when my name was coming up, I would have been here and not wasted your time that way. So thank you.
Would you like to provide some comments right now, or are you passing on?
Not on Bill 21, but just on the fact that I wasn't here
Okay.
when it popped up before.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to now go to Bill 7, to the people that were dropped to the bottom of the list. So is Mr. Sean Wood here? Okay, so they are going to be dropped from the list. Oh, now we have David Grant for Bill 7. My apologies for making you come up twice. Patience is rewarded. Please proceed with your presentation.
Anyway, on Bill 7, the bill is very short and obvious. There is space for an explanatory note at the bottom of it on the website. And what it says is what the bill says, going to be deleted. You know, the act is going to be revoked. It would have been useful, I think, to people reading that to have some idea of what the previous bill did that's being revoked. When I searched on the website for the previous bill by name, I got all the deliberation years ago when 2017 was brought in, but nowhere did it say what it did. And that was just my comment on it as a process. It would be nice to not spend the whole evening on this because I didn't know who's coming up next, but also the bill. And really for Bill 7, I think it was very eloquently explained by people three speakers ago, and I would just revert to them and their comments, and I have nothing really to add to that, other than it would have been nice going into it without a lot of research to know what Bill 7 and its predecessor were intended to do. That's a comment on it and on the explanatory note that was brief. And I think there's room in that box to do. Other boxes have lots of detail, and I would have liked to see more detail on that one. So again, that's a rules sort of thing, housekeeping rather than the bill. But that was my comment on it, and thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do members of the committee have questions for Mr. Grant? Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Thank you, Mr. Grant, for coming down to the ledge and spending time with us tonight. It's really great to know that members of the public are very attunely aware of what we're doing in here. Sometimes we think nobody's paying attention, and you certainly are. And a lot of times folks don't care about legislation that's going by, and it's important that people do. And so thanks for your participation, and look forward to seeing you again.
Mr. Grant, would you like to respond?
And thank you very much for the kind words. And what I'm saying, would have been nice if that was more stuff was in that explain box. I can do research. I've done lots of it for decades. But for the person just casually looking at what's going on around here, what was there didn't really do the job. I think the guy I was sitting next to during the break explained to me that one of the people here had completely I think during her talking points here, had completely misunderstood Bill 7. So having the explanatory notes saves people a bit of embarrassment, and it would have been useful. So that's a lesson we could learn for future bills, and not just what the bill does, but what the implications are. How is it going to affect my life? And because some of this stuff will affect these workers, explain very much PLAs and what they're good for. And knowing that as you read over the page on the website would have been useful. So thank you.
Are there further questions for Mr. Grant? Ms. Byram.
Thank you, Mr. Grant, for being part of this tonight and putting your comments on the record. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you, Mr. Grant, for taking the time tonight. All right, next we're calling Mr. Connor Ketchen. Okay, so they're going to be dropped from the list. After that is Mr. Dave McPhail. Okay, they're going to be dropped from the list. Mrs. Lois Rustin. Okay, she'll be dropped from the list. Okay, that concludes the presentations for the three bills. All right, in what order does the committee wish to proceed with the clause-by-clause consideration of these bills? Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Just by numerical order of the bills.
Honorable Minister Marcelino.
I'd like to thank those that came out to present on this bill tonight, and I would also like to thank the staff from Labor and Immigration and Consumer Protection and Government Services who are here to support me tonight. This bill will bring back the option for public sector employers to tender or enter into project labor agreements. At the moment, Manitoba is the only outlier in Canada that bans project labor agreements. We know that the previous government's decision to ban PLAs was rooted in ideology and not in fact. Project labor agreements work out collective agreements in advance of the building of critical infrastructure. PLAs are used globally and are recognized as useful in stabilizing the workforce and wages, addressing safety, preventing work stoppages, and reducing the risk of disruptions. In Manitoba, PLAs have a long history of being a tool in supporting apprentices, contributing to local communities by hiring local and ensuring projects are completed on time and within budget. Consultations were undertaken with departmental staff from Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, Consumer Protection and Government Services, and Finance in the preparation of this bill. This bill fulfills our government's commitment to protecting workers' jobs, standing up for workers' rights, and making it easier for Manitobans to get good-paying jobs. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Ms. Byram.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to thank the presenters that participated in this tonight and shared their views and their perspectives. And that's part of what the process is, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you to the member. During the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Shall Clause 1 pass?
Pass.
Clause 1 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 2 pass?
Pass.
Clause 2 is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
You say to that.
Agreed.
Agreed.
The bill shall be reported. We'll now consider Bill 9. Does the minister responsible for Bill 9 have an opening statement? Honorable Minister Marcelino.
Thank you, Chairperson. I want to thank everyone joining us today to discuss this important bill and making time to contribute to the development of measures to protect the jobs of Manitobans and to stand up for the rights of working people. I want to thank all the presenters who made time today to be part of this process. This process is unique to us in Manitoba as it gives us the opportunity to the public to participate and offer comments on this proposed bill. I would also like to thank the staff from Labor and Immigration and Consumer Protection Government Services who are here to support me tonight. In 2022, the federal government made changes to employment insurance and the federal labor legislation as part of broader EI reform. These changes increased EI sickness benefits from 15 to 26 weeks and the maximum length of unpaid medical leave from 17 to 27 weeks for federally regulated employees under the Canada Labour Code. Long-term leave for serious injury or illness is currently a 17-week unpaid leave in Manitoba. To qualify, an employee must be employed by the same employer for at least 90 days, and as a result, Manitoba workers are currently not able to access enough unpaid protected leave from their jobs to receive the full extended EI benefits. We know that both the employer and labor communities, represented by the Labor Management Review Committee, has recommended that Manitoba align the Employment Standards Code with the federal government's changes to EI sickness benefits, and the Canadian Cancer Society and others have also advocated for these changes. I will also note that a probe research poll found that 92% of Manitobans support passing a law in Manitoba that would protect the job status of seriously ill and injured employees for up to a minimum of 27 weeks. This government is taking action by extending the length of long-term leave for serious illness and injury from 17 weeks to 27 weeks to align with the EI sickness benefits. These enhanced measures will protect the jobs of Manitobans and will ensure workers have the time and flexibility needed for treatment and recovery. Manitoba will join several jurisdictions that provide serious illness and injury leaves that mirror EI benefits, including the federal government, Quebec, and just most recently it was unanimously passed in Nova Scotia, while other provinces like Ontario are considering also aligning their leave with the EI sickness benefits. I'm highly interested in moving this priority mandate forward, giving our government's commitment to protecting jobs and always standing up for the rights of working people. We want to support Manitobans who are recovering from serious illness or injury, and I hope that the opposition feels the same and would support this bill. With these short remarks, I thank the presenters again today and the committee for their consideration of this bill.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Ms. Byram?
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the presenters who, from the Cancer Society and Crohn's and Colitis, and the presentation that they made here today, and the information that they shared with committee. Serious injury and illness, I'm sure we've all been affected, whether it be family or friends, and impacts one's life in a variety of ways, and look forward to seeing this go through.
We thank the member. During the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Shall Clause 1 pass?
Pass.
Clause 1 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 2 pass?
Pass.
Clause 2 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 3 pass?
Pass.
Clause 3 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 4 pass?
Pass.
Clause 4 is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported? Agreed. The bill shall be reported. I'd like to inform the committee that under our Rule 85, Bracket 2, the following membership substitution has been made for this committee effective immediately. Honourable Minister Schmidt for Honourable Minister Marcelino. Thank you. Does the minister responsible for Bill 21 have an opening statement?
I do.
Honourable Minister Schmidt.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'd like to start by thanking the departmental staff that were able to join us here tonight for their support. The purpose of Bill 21, the Public Schools Amendment Act, is to reduce barriers and improve access to school for children residing in Manitoba. It proposes amendments to the Public Schools Act to change the right to attend school from age 6 to 5 years old and the compulsory school age from 7 to 6. These changes better align Manitoba with the rest of Canada and will come into effect for the next school year. We anticipate that these changes will have minimal impact to enrollment numbers, as the vast majority of children in Manitoba already start school at the age of 5 or 6. We will ensure to monitor the situation closely and help school divisions should they see a major increase in their enrollment, but again, we don't anticipate that. Additionally, this bill seeks to expand the definition of resident pupil. This will ensure that children are able to attend school in the division where they reside as long as they are living with a responsible adult. This better recognizes the multitude of family and care arrangements in our province and prioritizes children being in school regardless of who is caring for them. The amendments will also ensure temporary residents' right to send their children to a public school. These amendments will contribute to a more equitable and inclusive public education system and support the success of all Manitoba students. Unfortunately, this bill was delayed, so tonight it will require a minor technical amendment. But I hope that we will have the support of the committee and that we can all agree that children having access, earlier access to education in our communities is a good thing. Thank you. Merci, Miigwech.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I thank the minister for the statement, recognizing that she is relatively new in this role. I'll reiterate some comments that I've made previously with regard to this bill. We have no issue as the official opposition caucus with the premise of this bill whatsoever, and never did. In fact, I believe it was something that we were pursuing when we were still in government as well. What we have issue with and why the bill was held over was due to the rapidly expanding student population in our public school system, and the fact that initially when the previous Minister of Education brought this bill forward, he couldn't answer the question about how many students that this decision-making would add to our public school system. We know that Holloway education is alive and well in our public school system as it is, and so we think it's irresponsible to bring forward a piece of legislation and implement it that would raise the number of students in our student population without knowing exactly what that number is. And so on top of that, we have a government who's canceled the construction of 9 new schools and have brought forward no plans to build additional school capacity across the province. And so that's why we held this bill over, to give the new government an opportunity to make those plans known to Manitobans and to do some of that research. When asked at the second reading bill debate, the minister who at that time was designated to respond, the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, Consumer Protection and Government Services, admitted on the record that that work hadn't been done and that she couldn't answer the question. And so we have no assurance. And so unfortunately, we're left with likely not supporting this bill as it moves forward for a vote today. So hopefully the new minister will undertake to do that work to ensure that we have adequate space in our public school system to welcome all students at age 6 when this bill is implemented. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We thank the member. All right, during the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Shall Clause 1 pass?
Yes.
Clause 1 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 2 pass?
Pass.
Clause 2 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 3 pass?
Pass.
Clause 3 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 4 pass?
Pass.
Clause 4 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 5 pass?
No.
I hear a no. The floor is open for questions. Sorry, Honorable Minister Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I move that Clause 5, Sub 1 of the bill be amended by striking out July 1, 2024 and substituting the day it receives royal assent.
It has been moved by the Honorable Minister Schmidt that Clause 5, Bracket 1 of the bill be amended by striking out July 1st, 2024 and substituting the day it receives royal assent. The amendment is in order. The floor is open for questions. Seeing no questions, is the committee ready for the question? The question before the committee is as follows, that Clause 5, Bracket 1 of the bill be amended by striking out July 1st, 2024 and substituting the day it receives royal assent. Shall the amendment pass?
Pass.
The amendment is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 5 as amended pass?
Pass.
Clause 5 as amended is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
I heard a no. The floor is open for questions. All those in favor of the enacting clause, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. In my opinion, the ayes have it. The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass? The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill as amended be reported?
Agreed.
I heard a no. The floor is open for questions. All those in favor of reporting the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
In my opinion, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chair, can I request on division from committee? Okay, then
We'll recognize you.
Mr. Grant?
thank you.
Sorry, Jackson, my apologies.
At this hour, I'll take it. On division, please, Mr. Chair.
The bill shall be reported as amended on division. The hour being 9:51, what is the will of the committee?
Rise.
The committee shall rise. Thank you.